Regular council meeting to order for November 12th, 2019. First on the agenda, we have Mr. David Rhodes of Dawson Road Maintenance to do a presentation to our council. Welcome back to Cache Creek, David, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. So I do have several items that I'd like to cover. First of all, this year, as many of you are aware, we had contract renewals throughout BC, and the Dawson group was successful with 4 service areas. So previously we had the South Caribou and the Central Caribou. We also now have service area 25, which is in Smithers, and service area 22, which is the Fort St. John to Fort Nelson area. So that process has effectively doubled the size of our company as of June 1st. And so, as you can well imagine, that stretches the limits. Now when you take over a contract, you take all of the existing unionized workers. You know, they all still have their jobs, which is really a good thing. They're the ones that know all the nooks and crannies and little microclimates and problems. But the management team oftentimes doesn't want to go to work for a new company. You know, that company that was there maybe went over here, and maybe they want to move there with that company. So we've had some tremendous growth. There's been a lot of opportunity in the organization for employees that want to move up in the company, and that's been great to see. But it has left us a little shaky sometimes. You know, management sometimes doesn't get communicated out to the front lines as effective as we once did. And so you may notice some things like that. We're in a bit of a tumultuous time, and hopefully the first couple of months of winter we'll get that smoothed out again. But we have effectively changed everything. We have a chief executive officer who's the owner, Ian Dawson. We also now have a board of directors, and we have a chief executive officer, chief operations officer, financial officer, and a human resource person. And so that's all kind of filtered down in the company because, you know, currently the value of the contracts is somewhere between $60 and $70 million a year for the 4 service areas. You know, I just don't have the business acumen to deal with that, as do, you need some professional help there at that size. So part of that process is we've changed the name from Interior Roads to Dawson Road Maintenance. And the reason there is it brings us in closer alignment with the Dawson group, or part of the Dawson group. But as well, Interior Roads doesn't really fit in the north. You know, it doesn't, you know, the interior has always been the Caribou, or, you know, maybe a little bit into the Kootenays and stuff like that, but this is the interior. And so they did that name change. It's still the same company, it's the same, everything about it is the same, other than, you know, that official name change. But what I really wanted to bring to your attention was some of the new winter specifications. And I'm sure that there's been many questions, you may get a few. So just what's going on there is over the course of these new contracts, there's new specifications for sand. So sand on a major highway like Highway 97 through here, or Highway 1 going east, or Highway 99 or Highway 97C, that is all being reduced in size to 9.5 millimeters, which is about 3/8 of an inch. The old standard was 12.5 millimeters, a half an inch. So that reduction, hopefully at the higher speeds there'll be less windshield incidents. That's the reason that ministry went with that standard. The larger material is still going to be used on the side roads and all of those things. As well, there's a mandate in the contract to be a little bit more proactive with some type of anti-icing product. So anti-icing is before the snow falls, right? So before a snow event, you may see a truck, one of our trucks out doing a brine application. So we use a salt brine. It's made from rock salt and water. We mix it ourselves. It's about 23.3% brine. And that is effective to about -16. You can put it out at -16. It doesn't create ice, anything like that. It just dries and the salt is in place there. And then when snow contacts it, it no longer binds to the asphalt. Typically what happens with snow is as soon as it hits the asphalt, it starts sticking to it. And so you get this compact built up. So the idea of the brine is that it'll prevent that bond between the two surfaces, and the snow will still be able to be removed easily with plows. So that's one of the main changes that you may see. We'll also be using that brine as a de-icer. So afterwards we'll be normally salting, as we normally do, but there will be occasions where we'll actually use salt and the brine, right? And again, it works a little bit better than straight rock salt. Rock salt basically has to make the brine, and then it works like a brine, right? So if we can brine a road, then that's a little bit faster. The drawback to that process is you just can't have enough trucks to be everywhere at the same time, right? They're I don't know, fairly expensive to rig out one of those trucks, and you just can't have 4 or 5 of them in each service area waiting for that function. You know, the sand trucks are a little bit more multitasking, if you will. Another change has to do with the weather patterns. So we will be more proactive in when a weather is forecast. So a couple things are going to happen there. First of all, our trucks are required to be out patrolling the roads. As the forecast comes closer, there's an increased frequency of patrols. Previously it was like, okay, now it's snowing, now you can go do your thing, but you just wait until then. Whereas now there's a more proactive approach, which gets more vehicles out into the key locations, top of Highland Valley, out 99, making sure the intersection through town here is in good shape and stuff like that. So hopefully the crews will rotate into that system fairly easily, because it will be a dramatic improvement overall. That's the hope and goal of the whole thing. And then I don't know if many of you have heard of the comment that the political parties have used, being bare and black at -9 or bare pavement at -9. It's been a marketing tool for this new contract, and it's the truth, but it's a little bit of a misleading thing, right? So that's -9 surface temperature on the highway. So if it's been -20 for 3 weeks, you know, and the temperature comes up like last March, and you hit -9 or -5 in the daytime, the asphalt still got that cold temperature, right? So this -9 refers to the asphalt surface temperature, not the air temperature. And the other part is that if we salt when it's dropping, if we salt at -9 and it starts to melt and create that brine, and then it drops to -12 or 15, we've effectively created this chemical glazed ice, which is very hard, and it's like mirror finish and very slippery. And so this -9 really begins to take effect if the road's going to be that way for 24 hours. If it's just going to rise up to -9 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and drop down to -12 again, you're probably not going to see salt on the road. You might see the brine trucks certainly through town. You know, that would be the goal, would be to keep this as bare as possible through here. It's way better to have it run off on its own than, you know, we plowed onto your sidewalk, you plowed back onto the road. It snows a little more, we plowed onto your sidewalk, you plowed back onto the road. So that's just kind of, it isn't really that bad, but it seems like it sometimes. You know, so that's the main parts of the contract. The other part of the contract that you're probably aware of is the social media aspect. And so in the contract, we are required to have a couple of social media platforms. The two that we're using primarily are Facebook and Twitter. And so this has created a very interesting dynamic, if you will. I don't know if anybody really understood how broad that reach might be. You know, we've been doing this for a few months now. We have something like 2,300 and something followers on Facebook and stuff like that. But really what happens is it's just another place where people can communicate, right? Now with these social media platforms, that comes to me. And so like everybody, I do need to sleep a couple hours each day. And my wife likes to have sit-down dinners and stuff like that. So people aren't always going to get a response right away there, right? We do our goal and our responsibility is to respond within 24 hours, of course. However, it's not an effective tool. If you have a road concern, or if somebody's calling you about a road concern, the website is the best tool for the job. Our DawsonRoadMaintenance.ca website has a contact tab on it on the left-hand side. It opens down a kind of a drop-down menu on the right-hand side, and people can input their name, what area they're concerned about, what the road is, what the conditions are. They can make a comment in there. They can upload a picture if they want. And so whatever they put in there, as soon as they click submit, then that is emailed to the road supervisor for that area that they chose, that road that they chose. That road foreman immediately gets an email to his phone and to his tablet and to his desktop. His supervisor gets an email, I get an email, the operations manager gets an email, and all of the senior management team within the Dawson Road Maintenance get an email. So everybody knows that something's happened there, and which is way better than social media where, you know, if I don't answer them, then that person may be expecting a response and they're not gonna get it right away, right? And so that's the basics of the website. We still, of course, have our 24-hour communication center at 1-800-842-4122. Always welcome to call there. When you call there, that person has a two-way radio communication system that they can communicate with our teams anywhere in BC. So when you phone that number, you might be speaking to somebody in a different town. They may not know specifically what road you're calling, but you can say, hey, I'm in Fort St. John, or I'm in Cache Creek, and I'm talking about Back Valley Road, not Hunter Mall Back Valley Road, Cache Creek Back Valley Road, right? And it will go to the right person. They can reach out to the road crews here. We're on 24-hour schedule at the moment, and that'll go through till the end of March sometime. And that's about it. Any questions you might have that I can answer for you?
Yeah. The anti-icing, the brining, has that
Yes.
started yet?
It started in Hunter Mall House.
Oh.
This is one thing I didn't mention. In the new contracts, Ministry changed how the pits work. And so in times past, if Ministry had a gravel pit, like Copper Valley Pit up at the junction of 97C, we could use that gravel pit, we could use their salt shed there to store salt in and all that stuff, right? And so now, because of the environmental aspects of salt, they don't want any of that. So we've had to find locations to either buy land, lease land, beg, borrow, or steal land to put up salt sheds and stuff like that. So they finally settled, I think, with the Ashcroft Indian Band, and they have a location up by the racetrack there, the old racetrack site. So somewhere up in that area will be a sand supply and the salt shed and stuff like that.
Yes, coming along quite well.
Is it?
Yes, it's just this side of the Esso.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'll you know, one of the things that this new contract also requires is Ministry has access to where all of our plow trucks are. So how that works is that the plow trucks all have a GPS in it, and the plow trucks all have a system in them that provides information such as is the blades up or down?
Ooh.
Are they sanding or not? How much sand are they putting out, right? It's actually live tracking it. And so that gets uploaded whenever the truck comes into either Wi-Fi, which we have in all of our yards, we have a Wi-Fi site, and then also if they're cellular enabled. So if a truck is in Highway 99 as an example, as soon as your cell phone would start pinging out on Highway 99 a few clicks, the same thing will happen with these trucks. They'll be sending the signal. And that information is available to all of the management team and to Ministry. So Ministry has access to those maps live feed at any time, day or night, 24/7. They can go and they can see what trucks are where doing what. And so they don't have all of the information. They don't have application rates and those kinds of things. They just know that this truck is a single or a tandem or a tri-drive. They'll know if it's a wing truck or not a wing truck, and they'll know where it is. And so that's one of the other contract changes.
And the other comment I was going to have is I'm one of the social media 2,300 people.
Are you?
And I quite enjoy it, and I think one of the good things that I've seen is you're personalizing the company. So you're personalizing the operators
Yes.
with the pictures in front of their trucks and those
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
And it I think will help people with that dissatisfaction when there's a face in those trucks.
And I'm always amazed, and you know, many of you know that I was a road foreman here in Ashcroft for 9 years, and you know, I'm always amazed. There's a disconnect between the person in the plow truck and the real person who sat on the table behind you and had dinner before you started work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the restaurant, there doesn't seem to be that connection there. And so, like you say,
Yeah.
Sue, that'll be a really beneficial part of social
Yeah.
media. One of the challenges, of course, is people tend to rant on social media, and and they often don't have a level of restraint that a person would hope. And so we try and protect our crews from that. Some of it is very pointed. I haven't, actually blocked anybody, but we hide a lot of comments. Not a lot, but probably 2 or 3% of the comments we'll just hide them. If you want to complain about the road conditions, that's great. That's your right, and if you want to do it on my post, I'll let you. You can't swear. You can't be critical of an individual person or anything like that. Right? Like these people have to go to work every day. So.
David, just critical, or not critical, but a question on the aggregate size, and I call it aggregate because I don't believe it's road sand that you're putting on the road. But from 1/2 inch to 3/8,
Yes.
well, there had to be a benefit at the 1/2 inch.
Yes.
And what was that benefit?
Price.
Okay.
It costs.
What other benefits did it have, if any?
Okay, so there is actually, you would probably recognize some of it, but with the larger aggregate, if you're on a road, let's say you have snow coming through town here, and it's coming down, at a moderate snowfall, 2 to 3 centimeters an hour, and the plow truck comes through and he throws some sand out on the road, right? So first of all, that's only really effective. It only provides 20% of the traction of bare pavement, first out of the get-go. But the second part is that those larger rocks will have traction longer, right? If you have a 1/2 inch rock and 3/8 of an inch of snow, that hard rock is still pressed on a hard surface and it'll still poke up there and it won't be a totally glazed over surface, right? Whereas as soon as it's smaller, then it's going to show.
So going down to 3/8, it's more expensive or cheaper?
More expensive.
It's more
It's twice as much money to produce 3/8.
And the other question, and the reason I asked where your area went to, is the Highway 99 closure, which you had a post
Yes.
out there. What is the issue with that stretch of highway?
The slide area.
Yes,
So that area is continually moving.
correct.
It moves sometimes up to 3/8 of an inch an hour. And so when it reaches a certain point, there's a factor, and I don't know exactly what the number is, but once it starts moving a certain amount for a certain period of time, whether it's over an hour or 2 hours or whatever they've determined on site to be the key issue, if it moves that much, they have to shut the highway down until they know what's going on, until it stabilizes, the slide lessens off, and then often when that happens, it might move 40 or 50 centimeters in a half a day, right? And so now you come from a road, you go through this dip to now it's a drop off and a ramp up, and smaller vehicles or longer trailers are dragging, trying to get out of there, right? And so then you have to put more material on them.
So what is the remedial plan for that stretch?
So what ministry is doing is they're putting in some anchors below the road, which are they're a drilled in, screwed in thing, which will then have a plate like this clamped into the earth. They're putting in, I don't know, 200 and something to the bottom side of the road and the top side of the road of these anchors, and they're screwed in wherever it is through the depth of the loose material to something solid. It's not they're not going to screw into bedrock. They're going to, it's like an auger bit, right? So it's going to go in there until it can't go anymore. They have a certain load factor that's on that arm that says, okay, if it's got this much twist to it, then that's going to hold this much weight out of the surface.
And they haven't started that process
They
yet.
have. They've got. They did some preliminary work on the top side of the highway this summer. The contractor that's doing that work is on site now. They're the ones that actually made the call to close the road. And they will be continuing through that. They expect to have it completed somewhere in 2021.
And the very last question, the downtown core, with our sidewalks being so close to highway
Yes,
1 and 97 north, etc.
Yeah.
So you have our crews go and clean the sidewalks. You
Yeah.
guys go and fill the sidewalks. Our crews go clean the sidewalks.
my crew go back and
So
the sidewalks.
how do we prevent that from happening? I guess is my question.
That's a good question, and it's a pretty fair analysis of what's happened. I mentioned that earlier in the meeting today. This is what we see from our perspective also, and we don't mind that you plow the snow off into that way. It makes sense. There's a lot of places if you're plowing it that way, you're blocking something else, right? So it has to come that way, especially on some of these structures. It has to come this way, right? So the only thing that our guys can do really is slow down, right? That's the first thing. They can slow down, then it's not going to windrow up as far, right? It's still going to move. You'd have to get down to probably less than 10 kilometers an hour before the snow actually wouldn't roll up and onto the sidewalk. It would just sit right there at the end of the blade. That's a fairly ineffective thing to be doing for the trucks when you might have a truck that has to look after the town site here. You might look after the north side as far as 99, and they might look after 1 East as well, and maybe back as far as Cornwall Road where the pit's going to be, right? They might have that little section to look after, and it's just, they tend to get in a hurry, of course, because they want to get everything done. They see what's out there. They've all been instructed. It's part of our winter operations training, which they've most have been through this year already, is that we do instruct them. They need to slow down in the towns. We have the same thing in Hunter House, we have the same thing in Clinton, we have the same thing in Ashcroft. It's an ongoing concern. Hopefully, the Bear Road standard, if you will make that a little bit better. I know the climate here has a lot less -10 days than it has -5 or 6 days, right? And so if we can get to that road being bare, then it becomes a non-issue. Right? It's just those outside those parameter times where it's going to be more of an issue. And of course, when it's dry, -20, the snow doesn't seem to be an issue so much. It kind of just blows away with the wind and all that stuff. But it's that shoulder temperature of 0 to -10 where it's these big blocks of snow roll up and they're on the sidewalk and they go across the sidewalk, and the guys got to come and they got to plow them off, and they can only windrow so much, and then it's going to fill the road, and the ministry says, hey, that road lane's too narrow, you have to pull that snow off the road, and on and on and on. So
Just going back to Highway 99,
Yes.
when is it anticipated they'll have that project, the plates and the anchors all in place so
completed.
because it's my understanding that heavy truck traffic is going the back way and up
Yes.
the other.
Highway 12, yeah.
Okay.
So 2021. So the site is it has a weight restriction of 27,000 kgs. So like our gravel trucks, our sand trucks, not the tri-drives, but the tandem sand truck, it's completely legal to cross through that with a full load on. Right? It's not a weight issue there. It's within the weight limits of that. But the tractor trailer units, unless they're a light grocery truck, which they're not, obviously the sawmills bringing, the veneer out have to go down to 12 and back up. And it has a huge economic impact. It's huge. I would shudder to think of the burden of that. And so where ministry goes with it, they do have a plan in place. They estimated, I think the contract is something like $60 million to fix it. But it's like doing a big bridge. It takes time to do it, right? And it's more compounded when you have to keep traffic flowing in the meantime. If the whole thing blew out of there and there was no traffic, they'd go plunk, plunk like that, and they'd have a Bailey Bridge 2-lane across there probably in a month. It'll be the end of the story for the next 25 years. But that isn't what happened, and so that's where we are.
Yeah, it was pretty dynamic when they closed it down to tour buses for this area.
Well, a huge impact. Like I said, it's a huge impact. most of the tour buses can really get away with it, right?
Yeah. They opened
they're-
it back up this spring, but
Yeah,
we were a full year without them.
yeah,
I used to own the Husky and we used to get 5 or 6 a day.
yeah. Down to zero, yeah. It's a huge,
Yeah, it's a big hit.
huge,
Hat Creek.
you're not at the Husky anymore?
I retired last year.
I'm
Almost a year
turning in
ago.
my cut, that's it. My Husky card is out of here.
Almost a year ago.
Wow.
That's why I'm here.
She
Congratulations.
still hasn't recovered from her closing down party.
Yeah,
And she's still not all there.
People ask me if I miss it. It's like, yeah, like a toothache.
yeah, miss it like a toothache,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Miss the people, not the toothaches.
Yeah, it's always the people, right? It's
Yeah.
always the people. It's the biggest thing I miss here. The people, the interactions, the connections.
Mhm.
You're here for anywhere for a time where you try and live and be part of a community. It's hard to leave, right?
Yeah.
For sure, it's
Yes.
hard to leave.
Is the brine slippery?
No.
Okay.
So the brine is made there's only 2 components in it. It's rock salt and water. And it's mixed at 23.3%. So for every 1,000 kilograms of water, there's 233. Did I get
So
that
if we
right?
all made that
Mhm.
percentage and sprayed our
That's correct.
driveways, we wouldn't have to shovel our driveways as often.
Yes. Yes.
I don't have concrete to worry about, so.
That is the issue, concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is, there is environmental consideration.
Mm-hmm.
I know with our bridges, as an example, we have to be very careful washing, the bridges. Fish and aquatic life really is very, very sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
and so much of what we do has to be concerned with that, An example would be a concrete patch on the bridge at the Husky.
Mhm.
If they took a 5-gallon pail of water, maybe half full of water, and washed all of their tools in that, and then mixed that into 1,000 liters of clean water, tap water, right out of the village, tap water, and then poured that in the river, it would still kill fish. It's there's toxicity things.
Right.
Further questions for Mr. Rhodes? Thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
Very informative.
Thank you. Well, thank you for.
And your timing was bang on.
Yeah.
Well, I should have been here last week. Now I have to go around and hide my head over the trucks that spun out Nile Valley this morning. It's not so bad.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look, I am going to
Take a pen yet.
Grand entrance and a grand exit.
There. Thank you.
Have a good night.
See ya.
Drive carefully.
Council to consider adopting the minutes of the regular council meeting.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Councilor Coomber.
I think I have something, hold on. Lisa, were you not at the October 28th meeting?
No.
I arrived late.
Okay.
I got here just as you guys finished the regular, and I was here for the close.
And you made a motion that we go into closed, yes. Okay.
No, I did not. I was,
Yeah, you're in here.
yes, it was here
Just right at the very end.
yeah, right at the very end.
I wonder if there's a mechanism just to put in when people arrive late, what time they come.
Normally I try to do that, it just got missed this time.
Okay. Yeah, I know that you do.
It's like 4:35.
Page 3 under permissive tax exemption, I was reading that and I was thinking, which group is that? I think that was the golf club,
Yeah.
but it probably should be mentioned in that. And the other thing was on page 4, under the Christmas hamper fund. I'm not sure that I moved that. Did you, Councillor Peters?
was 2 weeks ago, I don't remember. I know I was in favor of it, so it could very well have been me.
I don't think it was me, but we'll leave it.
You talked about the hall, not
Yeah. Yeah,
the hamper.
that's okay. So, just the permissive tax exemption, I'd like to see us,
Identify the golf club, or
Yeah.
the proposed golf society.
whichever group we're talking about.
I've made a note in my agenda to change that.
That's it.
So, motion would be to, as amended?
As amended, friendly amendment.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Send a letter to Mr. Rhodes thanking him for his presentation.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes? No? Committee reports, economic development, Councillor Peters and Councillor Kruger.
I move that the council approve the Village of Cache Creek becoming the local community organization responsible for the program in this community, and that Councillor Coomer be appointed as community champion. And thank you, Wendy, for putting that on.
Second.
Discussion, if any? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Kruger. Budget and Administrative Services, Councillor Peters and Councillor Pinson.
I'll move that council grant permission to Dave Underwood of True Consulting to correspond directly with UBCM on behalf of the Village of Cache Creek regarding the 2019 structural flood mitigation funding stream.
Second.
Can I ask a question?
We're into discussion, sure.
Will we automatically be privy to all of the communication between True and UBCM?
Well, I will, I can copy council if they're interested, but I normally am the one who monitors stuff like that.
Okay, it just wasn't in the recommendations, I was hoping that that was the case.
Yeah, just standard practice is that that's the CAO's responsibility.
Okay.
And yes, they would very definitely be copying me on any correspondence.
Further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Policy and bylaw review, myself and Councillor Peters. Councillor Peters.
Move that the Village of Cache Creek permissive tax exemption bylaw 809, 2019 be giving first reading as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Opposed?
Okay. Move that the Village of Cache Creek permissive tax exemption bylaw 809, 2019 be given second reading as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Favor?
Opposed?
Move that the Village of Cache Creek permissive tax exemption bylaw 809, 2019 be given third reading as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
I agree with some of these, but not all of them. I think we could use these funds towards possibly the pool or the water system. That would benefit the whole community, and that's why I'm opposing. And I'd like that to be recorded. Thank you.
I can record your opposition.
As
Are you
the-
asking that your comments be also
Yes,
recorded?
please. Thank you.
Any
You
further
care to be
discussion?
specific about which ones you're opposed to? Which you said some you're in favor of, some you're not.
Yeah, no. I think we've had enough discussion on that, so.
Do you need clarification, Martin?
No, that's fine.
Any discussion, any further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Opposed, that was opposed.
Public Works and Community Facilities, myself and Councillor Defoe.
I would move that council provide a grant and aid for free use of the community hall and waive the damage deposit for a Pee Wee hockey fundraiser on December 8th, 2009 if it's available.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Go to the slide if you don't mind, Martin, if you could, please.
While we're doing that, I'd just like to make a comment, that perhaps Santa's question on the snow going onto the sidewalk applies in town as well. And maybe we could ask our guys in the residential areas to go a little slower. I know up in my area, they tend to go through, the guys in Yale, pardon me, they go through pretty quickly and it fires it quite a ways up, and we have a lot of seniors in the area, so.
That's a good point.
Cause I shovel snow for 4 of them, so. I bought a snow blower, but it doesn't go through that crap. And I can't use the brine solution because they all have concrete. Well, actually, Joyce and Bob don't. I'll try it on mine first.
So, on Sunday, November 3rd, we had an alarm down at the water treatment plant, and our crew responded, and there was another fractured line or broken line. So Martin, could you just, I'm sorry if I'm going to be a little bit of a pain here, but go to the November 3rd incident, and that would have been the
Are they,
I'll just keep going until I see it, and then I'll continue to stop if you can find it.
come on.
Right there, thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, that's good. So if you look at these two photos, you'll see that that's the November 3rd incident, and that's a Sked 80 PVC cap that's dead-ended, and for whatever reason, probably hammered or flexed, it fractured and broke, and subsequently set off an alarm of sorts, and the crew responded within 10 minutes and was able to get on top of it fairly quickly. The key thing to look at this photo is that Sked 80 PVC, that's plastic, polyvinyl chloride, and that is part of the ongoing problems we've been having with the water treatment plant. So that happened last Sunday. Okay, Martin, if you could scroll up to until I ask
Did you want to go the?
No, just keep going until I ask you to stop. There's one particular photo right there. Now the one on the left, that's directly across from, within the firing distance of that break, and that's our main control panel where all our electrical comes in. So you can see that's a bit of an issue for us, a big issue.
That's
The-
$100,000 issue.
That's a different one. Sorry, Christina. The one on the right is the $100,000 repair. The one on the left is the main.
See how we've got it protected.
Thank you, Martin, for pointing that out. That's our solution to waterproofing the issue that we had a couple of months back. But the one on the left is the main power feed coming in. That was directly across from that break. The one on the right, just for your info, is the plastic that mill poly that we put over the repairs that was done by the local contractor to bring that back up online. So just a bit of history, because I think it's important that we just have a short discussion today. That project was between 1.8 and 2.2 million dollars. I'm not sure how it ended up, where it ended up between those two figures. And roughly September 2009 is when the contract was awarded to a company, and it was commissioned in December in 2012. So, Martin, if you could just scroll down to the rusty looking stuff. Just keep going if you don't mind.
That is the last slide.
Okay, go back then, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Whoop.
There.
There.
Let's go back one more if you don't mind. A little bit more. And a bit more. Should be one more. Okay, thank you. So when it was commissioned, if you look at those 3 slides, the one on the right is the water coming into the water treatment plant. That is plastic pipe, polyvinyl chloride, SCED 80.
I'm gonna move over here so the council
Okay.
can see the screen.
Thank you. Well, this is the damage that was done when they first tried to commission the plant. You can see on the left, broken pipe, center, some more shattered pipe. And that's the intake, the brunt of what, if you have a surge, that's where it's gonna happen. Now, if you go to the rusty pipe, rusty looking pipe, should be the next one. Oh, sorry.
Where'd they go?
One more.
Other
Oh,
one.
There. So that was the solution to the issue. So once that happened, they had the company come back, and you can see that you have steel pipe now mixed in with some more plastic, polyvinyl chloride pipe. And now the original line coming in was a nice straight pipe that went to the filters or to the treatment process, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, how many elbows you got there, which is even more of a hazard for us, not a hazard, but a more of a water hammer situation than we had before. So this is what we have today. So now we can scroll through some more. If you look, there should be one more photo. Next one right there. If you could stop there, please. You can see how much PVC we have in that water treatment plant on the left. A lot. And on the right, if you thank you. On the right, you see that solution tank, that white solution tank, that houses sodium hypochlorite, 12%, and that's a very corrosive chemical. And if you walk into that building, the first thing you smell is a heavy, heavy bleach smell. And that in itself is not good for the relays and the components that are in that housed or behind that plastic enclosure. So if you can scroll through some more, Martin, please. Now, this is the doorway to our biggest concern. So I just took a picture of that for council to see. That's our doorway to our water treatment plant. Thank you. So based on what happened on November 3rd, I've contacted local electrical company to provide us with moisture sensors, quote for moisture sensors, and also the equipment needed that in the event we have another structural failure in the water treatment plant, that it automatically sends an alarm to our crew and shuts down the pumps completely. So there's no power. We have an alarm, boom, the pumps go down. We're waiting for that quotation.
Why would you cut power totally?
So we don't have any further
If you
damage.
go back to the picture of the water spewing out,
Okay.
then that would prevent, so the minute there's moisture in the building that's sensed, or there's a pressure differential in the pumping system, bang, everything shuts down.
And what, for the uneducated, what impact does that have to the water supply of the village?
None.
None?
Well,
Short term.
if the
Well,
shutdown
short term,
lasted
yeah.
for a very long time, it would,
Yeah.
but there's enough water in our reservoirs that it would.
Okay.
What do you consider a long time?
Well, depending what the nature of the problem is, I mean,
And it depends on how much water people are using.
yeah.
So winter wouldn't be as impactful as summertime.
Exactly.
So initially, it's not an issue. However, we're taking that step to ensure that it doesn't become a bigger issue, and then it would maybe be a longer period before we get our water system back in operation. Now, just keep in mind that this is our newest water treatment facility. 2012 it was commissioned. The other one was commissioned in 1980. That's our main pumping station. That's right next to that facility. So that building in itself is 39 years old already. And for our next, at some point down the road before we have our town hall, we'll be taking some detailed photos, and because we've had issues with that facility as well. Yes, CFO Martin. Sorry. CAO, sorry.
I just wanted to add to that regarding what we're going to be showing the public when we're ready for that. I'd also like to include photographs of some of our streets and roads and the inside of the sewage treatment plant as well.
Thank you. Councillor Pittman.
Just to be clear, that when the alarm goes off and then the power goes off, so that water gushing stops. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we hope to achieve, yeah. Anything further? No. Villages Services and Liaison. Councillor
Thank you
Defoe.
for
Councillor
that information, by the way. That makes things clearer seeing it. Maybe there's a tour on Saturday during lunch or something.
It'll take all of 3 minutes.
Yeah, but if we've never seen it, it's hard to relate to
Exactly.
what it
What's going on?
We're gonna
really
have a
means.
tour.
Yeah.
I believe Mayor does that part.
Thank you. National Adoptless Awareness Month. Whereas adoptive families in British Columbia provide children with the love and support of a permanent family, and whereas the Mayor and Council of the Village of Cache Creek wishes to recognize the care, compassion, and unselfish commitment of British Columbia's adopted families, and whereas there continues to be a need for adoptive families to nurture the growth and development of children, especially those with special needs because of physical, mental, or emotional disabilities, and whereas the Mayor and Council of the Village of Cache Creek is committed to better understand and support Indigenous communities in raising their children according to their traditional customs and practices, and whereas there is a need to remind citizens during this time that there are many children, teens, and sibling groups in the province who are available for adoption. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Santo Tellerico, Mayor of Cache Creek, British Columbia, do hereby proclaim November as Adoption Awareness Month in the Village of Cache Creek. Councillor Cooper.
I'll just give a quick update on Hat Creek Ranch, if anyone's still wondering. Nothing has come down from the provincial government yet. The society is still waiting. We did have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow, but as there's nothing to discuss, that was cancelled.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further? Protective Services, myself and Councillor Cooper.
Does the roof of the fire hall fall under that?
Yes, it does.
Have they started yet?
Interesting you should bring that up. I just had a note here, I got an email earlier this afternoon from Arcona to say that they have another job on the go that got impacted by the recent weather. They will now be starting our roof, they hope, on November 22nd. It was going to be the 14th.
Well, it's fire practice tonight, we'll see if there was any more water coming in. And I'd just like to say that I spoke with the new sergeant. I haven't gone anywhere with Block Watch because of Kathleen's injury and not being at work, and then the new sergeant being in, but I spoke with him yesterday and he's interested in helping us get it going, so it'll take a couple of months to get everything together and be able to present it to the public and have a public meeting for people to be involved. It's quite a lengthy process to set it up because everything has to be in place.
Mm-hmm. Who's the new sergeant?
His name is Ryan, but I can't remember his last name.
Acting sergeant.
Acting sergeant,
Yes.
yeah.
They still haven't decided who
Mm.
the successful candidate is going to be. Okay, fire truck. Martin, any news on the warranty issues we're having with the truck?
I attempted to get a hold of the company that's doing the repairs today, and the person who I've been asked to contact by our fire chief is not available until Thursday.
What are the
Nothing
issues?
Do you wanna-
major, is it?
Maybe give us an update
Yeah.
on what the issues
I know
are
we were
just
having
for
issues.
council.
Okay, I'm not totally familiar with the issue. All I know is that the windows are not rolling up and down properly. They
Oh.
jam.
Have you checked for chewing gum?
No, well, from what Tom Moe was telling me, and they had one of the panels off when he was in there and they were trying to fix it. The tracks are, angled a little bit. They have to be to the shape of the truck. But the side windows are actually, it's the side windows that are causing the issue. They're actually curved, but the rails are straight, and they're 99% sure that's the issue.
But it's a fabrication issue with the body itself is
It
what
appears to be, yes.
Okay, fair enough, thank you. Anything else under protective services? Under governmental relations, myself, just at the TNRD level, they had a presentation on the ALC, Agricultural Land Commission, and there's some gray areas regarding applications for to the ALC that they must go through local government, and they're trying to sort that out. So I just thought I'd bring it to council's attention that I'm not sure how much of that we do in our community, but it is supposed to go to a local government, and my understanding is local governments or the provincial governments aren't sure how to handle that portion of the ALC. I also have had a chance to discuss with Mayor Roden the possibility of getting together on a government-to-government level and discussing some of the things that we had brought up at our last budget meeting regarding sharing of services, sharing of equipment, and sharing of purchasing power, anything to do with intergovernment relations that we can combine our efforts with, and to start the dialogue. And she was receptive to that, so we'll be directing CFO and CAO to maybe meet with their clan and see if we can come up with a directive that we can proceed down the road with. Anything further under intergovernmental relations? And we'll go to the Chief Administrative Officer's status report. We adopt the report as per the cover report.
If I may?
Sorry?
If I may speak to it?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
If you'll, there should be a cover report here that I don't see, I don't know what happened there. In any case, the cover report basically is saying, I'm asking, whenever these reports now come to council, because there's so much information in there, I'm asking that they be adopted, not just accepted or received and filed. By adopting it, you accept the recommendations that I've put into that report. And a lot of those recommendations that you see in there are to defer to another strategic plan year, to remove from the agenda because they're either already done or just not doable for whatever reason. And my apologies for missing that when I was proofing the agenda. The cover report went through that. I just thought I'd mention that now. When the strategic plan for 2020 is finalized, that will also be added to this. I wanted to point out to council too that putting all this together took about 30 to 35 hours of my time.
Councillor Cooper?
I noticed some projects in here that I don't think the village should be responsible for doing. They seem more like something that a service club should be responsible for. Like, well, the Snow Angel program on page 33, I believe Better at Homes already does that.
Yeah, they do.
A location for a community garden, well, maybe we can identify a location, but I mean, it's up to a local service group to actually, I would say, take care of that on an actual daily basis.
If I may, if there are some particular items in here when you move to adopt with, you can do it with the exception of item such and such. And that would stay on the report, or it would be separated from the report and dealt with on the agenda as a single item.
Okay.
Okay, I can just say that I can speak to item 5, that on page 33, the Snow Angel program is in Cache Creek because I am one. So they just put a call out for volunteers and people put their name in, then it goes from there.
And developing a database of skilled workers, I'm pretty sure Employment Services handles that, but there's also a list at Home Depot,
Which page, which number?
Home Hardware in Ashcroft, page 35, number 3.
And you're saying, sorry, that somebody else already does this?
Work PC,
Work BC.
and then Home Hardware for skilled trades.
And then who does? Work BC and
Home
Home
Hardware.
Hardware.
I would assume from those comments that those two items can be removed, yeah, since they're already in place, essentially.
I would think so. Page 31, Music in the Park, I believe I know of a couple of people in Cache Creek who are working on this.
Page, sorry, what?
Page 31,
Mm-hmm.
Music in the Park.
Okay. So you would like to see that removed as well, since there is another group?
Well, if we could postpone to 2021, and by then if somebody's started it, then we can postpone it then.
Yeah, I guess.
So what is council's wish on that one?
I can't see doing something like that unless we had an actual activities programmer.
That's essentially what I'm commenting on there, yes.
Yeah. Personally, I'd say take it out.
So that's an amendment to the report. Well, these additional removals would be considered an amendment to the report, so when we adopt the report, those amendments would take effect as well.
Did anyone move that?
We
Adoption?
haven't had a first or a
No.
second.
I'll move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Sorry, who moved?
I did.
me.
I got the second.
Information correspondence?
I just wondered how the Christmas lights were coming along. Don't know
They're
where
actually
that-
coming along very well. We've spent roughly a little over $2,000 on repairing the existing, I'm not sure the exact number, we're gonna try to repair up to 20. We've been doing trials on how to best decorate the blue spruce. And we have ordered, I believe it's 8 brand new decorations. Rather than the individual lights, we're switching to the LED rope lights. They look pretty good. I like them.
Yeah, Robin had pictures of the stars that they've been working on repairing, and they're very bright.
Yes.
They're gonna be nice.
Is this for the
Yes.
community hall parking lot or?
I was just about to say that, yes, we're gonna be focusing on the community hall this year, and I believe the budget that was presented showed a fair amount of money for this year and the following 2 years. I think we're gonna have to carry it on for longer than that. The older decorations, some of them are repairable, most of them are not. They use little, like thin 1/4-inch rebar. It flexes in the wind, it's fairly soft metal, it fatigues. Becomes dangerous if one blew off one of the light poles. So most of them are going to have to be replaced, so it'll be a longer than 3-year program.
But we're not doing the streets anymore, are we? We're just focusing on the community hall.
This year we're focusing on the community hall. We hope to start expanding out down the streets again in future. That's a council call though when we come to budget time. The general feeling from the public that I'm hearing is that they would like to see them back to the way they were.
And thanks to the public works staff for making that extra effort to try to come up with a solution to our
One of the
Christmas.
comments that Robin and Gabe made was that the tie wraps that were holding the lights on the blue spruce had grown into the blue spruce, so they were quite a challenge to remove.
So will we need the bucket truck still, I guess, so hey, for the tree?
We will need a bucket truck. Shane's trying to track one down. He's got one right now that, I'll just leave it at that. He's working on it.
Working
We
on
will
it.
have one.
Okay.
It's a Timothy girl?
further under information correspondence. New business?
Actually, with council's permission, I think the Christmas lights belongs under new business and information correspondence, so would it be okay to move it there? I think that's really where it belongs.
Perfect,
Okay.
thank you. Any new business? Questions from the public? Uh-oh, I'm scrambling.
Well, technically, I have 3 questions. How long is the projected time frame? Once the guys start working on the fire hall roof, how long are they expecting to take to fix it, or do we know?
It depends on what they find when they get out there and start tearing material off. They anticipate up to 2 weeks if all I have to do is replace the membrane. If they have to replace some of the sub base, it depends on how bad it is.
Secondly, would it be possible for me to be able to get a copy of the slides for the purpose of this video to clearly show the public what you're talking about? Like the pictures of the water treatment plant? Great. And lastly, I've been noticing, and this is mainly a yes or no question, because I don't need detail, is Councillor Pittman currently on any of the committees?
No.
Okay. That's it for me.
We're going to a closed session.